Welcome to Mia, the Passion Muse. I'm Mia Sines Whitmore, your host, the Passion Muse. And sitting with me is Betty Louise. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Mia.
It's an honor to have you. We are going to be talking today about a very sexy subject called sexual healing. And it's part of our Feminine Beauty Awakening series. And it's truly amazing when you're aligned within your own core, both confidently, sexually, all the way in every aspect. When we are, as women, awakened and confident, we're very, very powerful. When you add that sensuality and sexuality to the mix, we're rock stars. We're the queens. So you had an amazing journey that I'd just like you to briefly share, because it'll open up people's eyes to what we're talking about, as well as I totally believe, and have used it myself, the sexual healing in my relationships, not just for personal, bringing us back together for connection, but also on a physical level. When I've needed to have certain energy or feeling like my menstrual cycle's not working correctly, that really does, the orgasms really do align my body. So.
Yeah, orgasmic healing has been around since the beginning of time, for goodness sake. There's documentation about the 1880s and the Victorian physicians and the invention of the vibrator. It's just what is our true nature, and we've gotten very far away from it. So the way I found my way back to my true nature was through a chronic pain condition. When I was 30, I was diagnosed with, they named it rheumatoid arthritis. It's a form of arthritis that affects all your joints. It's autoimmune. There's hot, swollen pain, shoulders, elbows, wrists, hips, knees, ankles. I mean, it's just everywhere around you. Prior to this diagnosis, I was an athlete. I have a dance degree. I used to hike and bike. And so once I couldn't move without really being in searing pain at times, I had to go on a very deep inward journey to find my core. Initially, they put me on a lot of pharmaceutical medication because that's what treats the symptoms of a condition like rheumatoid arthritis. It doesn't go to the healing place, but it definitely can treat symptoms for a while. But I cycled for 15 years on these pharmaceutical meds. They worked for a while, and then flares would break through, and then we'd have to add a higher dosage, or if I'd topped out on the dosage, it would be a new drug. And I just was walking down this path of more and more medication, until there were a couple of aha moments for me, and I realized there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than cycling like this and taking all of this toxic, potent medication. So I, against my doctor's recommendations, got off of all of it. It was with his blessing, and I did it safely, tapering off under his guidance. But he didn't recommend this. So it was a moment of courage for me to follow my inner guide versus this man that I had really given my health over to for 12 years. So once I got off of the medication, now I'm committed to another path. I don't want to just go back to the quick fix. And pain can be a real motivator for you to look outside of the norm for ways to heal. And, you know, you've heard my story, but I literally heard Marvin Gaye singing in my ear that there was something very wonderful about sexual healing. And I said to myself, in this place of lots of pain all over my body, wow, wouldn't this be an amazing time to experience that and explore it? And so I did. I invited a very safe old lover over, and we made beautiful love all night long. He just completely was right there for me, 100%. And it was so profound, Mia, because I went from a 10 on the pain scale to a 4 overnight. I literally got up. I walked down the hall with ease. It was I mean, that's why I'm doing a radio show called Living an Organic and Orgasmic Life, because it was so amazing to me that sex could be that dramatic in terms of reducing my pain.
That's beautiful. All the juicy stuff that we release, the oxytocin and the endorphins, and I'm sure you know so much more about all the things that our body, they're amazing machines, truly, truly amazing. When we were created, who knew? Well, obviously, God, the divine, knew what the intricacy would the map or the mathematical equations to everything, but it's really, truly vast that, you know, when you look at it, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And when you were saying, as you got up and walked down the hall the next day after hearing this in your ear, you and I have laughed before because you were also on a radio show with me of get up, get up, get up. Isn't that right? Wake up, wake up, wake up. Yeah, in the song.
That's the start of sexual healing. It's like,
Yeah.
get up, get up, get up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. And I'm telling you, that song will get anybody in their hips, too, which is also a great, great thing.
Right, which is all about getting in touch with the feminine and the masculine, I'm sure, but women, those of us who love to dance to music or feel the rhythm in our soul, is how we can connect to our sensuality, our sexuality, our confidence, and align ourselves instantly back to the amazing being that we feel or know we truly are. There's a certain sense and aura about us that when we are connected, we want to be in that place. And when we're not, for me, I turn that music on in my head and I realign myself, and it comes right back, and I start to walk the walk, my hips start moving a little more, and I start feeling better, and I'm rocking on my high heels better, or my sandals, or whatever I'm wearing. But, you know, I truly feel that, and it's amazing that that song can also heal you if you're listening to it. I think it's also extremely inspirational just for the woman and the awakening process that we're talking about, not just the sexual healing, although it's all together, it is, but it's a fun one too, because I like that wake up, wake up, wake up. It's beautiful.
Feminine beauty awakening right here.
Exactly.
And, you know, we are in our true nature. Every single woman is a beautiful sexual being.
Yes.
It's just the way it is. And after I'd had this experience, I went on to explore further with a tantric sexual master. I studied with him for 1.5 years, and he's the one that taught me that every single inch of a woman's body is orgasmic, and that a woman could live an orgasmic life, that we are that juicy.
Yes.
Just being who we are in our true nature.
Can I share this with you?
Please.
There's a place that I go for my coffee when I'm in Los Angeles, and I literally am so excited to have the first sip, and when it's truly made the way that I love, I call it my orgasm, my morning coffee, orgasm, because I taste it and I'm like, and if I don't get the then it has to be remade.
That's right. Food, many people can relate to the orgasmic nature of food. Mm-hmm. And what I want to say is every experience in life can be orgasmic. That's really a choice that we make to reach down in to that inner juice.
Right. Our sensual
and bring
being.
It to this, and bring it to the surface and squeeze the juice out of every experience you have. Stay out of your judging mind. It's not a good or a bad. It's just, where's the juice in this?
For all of our senses. It's for our sound, through music and everything else. It's through our eyes, how we see things, the beauty in life, the trees, the flowers, everything. Every day I try to pick out several new things that I've never seen before, especially while I'm here in Florida. And it's fun. It's truly fun. And that's part of the sexual orgasmic, even though I wouldn't say that the cluster of date nuts that I took a photograph this morning, part of them green and part of them red, that has nothing to do with orgasms, but it was so beautiful that my eyes had glory upon them. And then you see the world differently. And it's all a part of the awakening. If you cannot see the beauty, you're not awakened. You're just not even wanting to be there. So every sense, sound, touch, and then our touch, it's so orgasmic that way, when you actually can feel like this gently, and you can feel the movement on your fingers and how it would feel on somebody's body, not just to them but to you. That's part of that. That's part of that. It's beautiful.
Sensuality is absolutely, in my mind, the first step before you can reach that deeply fulfilling, emotionally and physically fulfilling orgasmic experience. Is you have to be tuned into your sensuality. Sensuality is something that you can't be multitasking and be sensual. Right. So we are 100% present. We're out of our heads. We're into our bodies when we're feeling sensual.
Right.
So absolutely key to having orgasmic healing.
Mm-hmm. And which quiets everything within us, because you can't experience that sensual beauty if your mind is chaotic.
That's exactly. You can't even have an orgasm. You can fake an orgasm, but you can't have a truly fulfilling, emotionally and physically orgasm if you're thinking about the next thing you're going to do or what your day has been. It's literally impossible, and that's the difficult thing for us to do in our world, but for women particularly, because we're just cycling, we're on these hamster wheels, we're trying to be super women, and we need rest, we need space, we need to nourish and fill up so that our minds can relax.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, as you were talking about the last part about the sensual, I was thinking about a show that you were on. Is this correct? She came to you, or you were on her show, about how the male brain is 2.5 times larger than the woman's in the sexual arena, in the area. And I'm thinking, no, are there some women who are so sexually constantly thinking about it? Is that area of their brain larger?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and, I'll put this disclaimer out there right from the get-go. I'm not a brain researcher, but I did interview Luann Brizendine. She's a UCSF physician who wrote The Female Brain and the Male Brain. And what she has discovered, now get this, Mia, the female brain hasn't even really been studied until 1990.
It makes sense, because we have not been allowed to be women or cherished, so that makes sense.
Yeah, she tells this story. Luann tells the story about how when she was in medical school in I think it was the 70s or the 80s, and they were talking about the brain, and she raised her hand. She said, well, what about the female brain? And he goes, oh, we don't study the female brain. The hormones would mess up the data. So it wasn't until the 90s that they started to study our differences. And although we're all human beings and most of our brains are similar, what she found were the two really significant findings that I found. There were a lot of findings, but the two findings that caught my attention. One was that the sexual center in the male brain is 2.5 times larger on average than the female brain. So it talks about that sexual drive of men being so much greater, which overall in our society it is. The second thing I found so profound in her work is that women's hormones, we have many more hormones than the basic ones that are studied, and they change every single second, which is why we can tune in to nature, to Mother Earth, because, of course, Mother Earth is changing every single second, too. So when we truly align with that very natural place, like yourself and myself, I, as a woman, I have a great sex drive. I think about sexuality a lot, and I know you do too. And I believe it's because we've learned how to have really yummy, satisfying, fulfilling sex. So your body wants more of that. And that we are just very much aligned with the power of sexuality, both in its healing capacity and also, when a woman is totally tuned into her beauty and sexuality, it's like, man, she's got the world by the tail.
Yes.
It's courage, confidence, and grace are the three words that I've captured in the transformation I see when women tap into that place.
That's amazing. It truly is. And it's also an amazing place to be, and to not have shame around our sexual nature, to allow it to flow and to enjoy it, because we only live once in this lifetime, and it goes way too fast. And so
it really does. The other thing that I learned about the brain is that our brains are not wired for pleasure. We have to make an active effort to think positively and receive pleasure. We're guarded and ready for danger and make sure everything's, set in place. And receiving pleasure is not something that comes easy to us yet. But with shows like yours and mine, we're teaching the value of it. And, I now teach about pleasure medicine, about finding our truth, about healing our bodies because of my own personal experience through pleasure. And I tell you what, since I've been studying this, man, it's just story after story, and I hear phenomenal stories about women that have had these experiences. Chronic migraine headaches are a perfect example. The chronic migraine headache, if a woman brings herself to orgasm or has an orgasm, when the headache is first coming on, she can literally bypass the orgasm, shift the energy within her body so she has no headache. This is instead of taking lots and lots of pharmaceutical medication and pulling the sheets over your head and saying, let me just wait till this is over. Just think of the different energy. You talk about feminine beauty awakening. A woman brings her orgasmic energy into the world versus losing that woman for at least a day, many times more.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. There are also not very many men, when they're in that spot of pain or frustration, that will use sexual energy to heal themselves, or at least that's part of my experience that I've noticed, where that's something that I tend to go to for healing. My ex-husband and I used to do a lot of sexual healing that way, which is amazing because we just knew it felt good. It made us feel good,
I tell you, one of the stories I heard, a friend of mine said that she had the flu, and she and her husband have the same relationship. It sounds like you and your ex did. And her husband said, "Oh, honey, do you need a little bit of me?" And she goes, "Yeah." And sure enough, she felt better.
Yeah. I've experienced that too. When sometimes on female issues inside internally, I feel like it's medicine. 3 days after, I can't believe I'm saying this, 3 days after I gave vaginal birth to my second son, he was a VBAC. The first one was a C-section. I had to have intercourse, and it was like not only were my hormones going nuts for it, but it was like an internal massage. And doctors say, do not have sex for so many weeks. I had to have it. And I truly was there for my children more because it literally healed me. It really, I had an episiotomy, and my son was almost 10 pounds, so, he was huge. And so being sewn back up, it really was something that was beneficial for me. I'm not saying everybody try that, because if the doctors say no and you're in pain, of course you don't do that. But my body was saying absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And on the fourth day, I think it was the next day, we took our son out to dinner for Mother's Day. So it was something before I probably wouldn't have been able to do, but because my body felt good, we were able to go out as a complete family. The little, newborn and the 2.5-year-old, other child, and it was truly beautiful.
Oh, that's so inspirational, Mia. I mean, to just really realize that, I think it comes down to us trusting. It's just like you said, the doctor told you, don't do this, but you, in your intuition, knew that it would be a good thing for you.
Right.
And that's also part of our true nature. And God bless you for being so tuned into your true nature.
My womanhood.
That's right, baby.
Well, it's the best place to be tuned in, isn't it?
It sure is.
Well, I'm sure that people want to know some other very interesting facts, and that is you have a part of your program is having the man honor the woman and the woman honoring the man, and that's also part of becoming aligned together to rise side by side to support each other as opposed one blocking the other. So would you share that with us? Yeah,
absolutely. Most of my work is done with women. I do feel like women have a special ability to vibrate out into the world exactly what we need right now.
Yes.
Beauty and sexuality, it's literally healing to our relationships and healing to our planet. I see a clear vision of it. I've experienced and witnessed it. In addition, the other piece that sort of sets up how I see men and women learning to honor each other is through some research by a gentleman right here in Seattle, where I happen to be living at the moment, John Gottman. He studied marriages for 30 years. He actually had one of these labs set up where he observed married couples for 30 years.
Wow.
And one of his findings was that in successful marriages, and you could say successful relationships, what he observed was for every one negative interaction, there needed to be at least 5 positive interactions to just have the relationship be positive overall. So positivity was a really huge part of a successful relationship. And, I can look at my own failed marriage and see how we got to the point where it was just, there was so much negativity, and we just lost sight of the positive things that were all around us, of course.
Right.
So I just feel so strongly that for women, we need to remember to honor and respect the magnificence of the masculinity that's on this planet.
Absolutely
without men,
agree.
We wouldn't be here.
Right. Right. We're amazing creatures. We can birth, feed our babies, everything. But we absolutely, and this is what I share with women too, that's why I love that you just said that. We absolutely need you men. And that's what this segment or this series is about, is trying to raise our vibration so we can love you more. And you're not going to be afraid of us. And you're going to embrace us and love us back just as much, because I try to teach women, if I'm sure that they do listen, but we have to love every aspect of you, everything that even comes out of your body. If we are not truly in love with even that part of it, then we're not in the right place. It has to be every aspect, just as I would love each man to love every aspect of woman. We're not all the same. We're different. We look different, and that's the beauty and the uniqueness. Who cares about these supposed supermodels? They're all photoshopped, and they're really not true women. I had a man that I was with once say, well, I really like the Barbie doll. And it's like, wow. Later.
Yeah. And the truth of it is that a lot of those women, although, they know how to model for these, magazine covers, and they know how to act in movies, a lot of them don't feel beautiful and sexual in their own personal lives.
Right, exactly.
It's really, in my mind, the word is horrific, how disconnected we are as a gender to our beauty and sexuality. And nobody wins when we're disconnected. And everybody wins when we're connected. Everybody wins.
Absolutely. Do you want to share your sort of mantras a little bit, or affirmations that you...
Yeah, absolutely. I opened this show in Paris a couple of years ago, and it was Living an Organic and Orgasmic Life, which was also the name of my radio show. And in the middle of the show, I literally asked all of the women to stand up and look at the men in the audience and repeat after me and say these 3 sentences, 2 of which I've just shared, but I'll say them again. I respect your magnificent masculinity. Without you, I wouldn't be here. And my understanding of our differences help me to appreciate your sexual energy. So that's what I ask the women to do. I think, that last line is very much pointing to how we berate men all the time for their sexual drive. We criticize them, scandalize them if they have affairs. What would it be if we really just understood that especially a teenage hormonal boy is thinking about sex every 9 seconds? I think it's going to change the world when women can step into that place.
I also think that there won't be the affairs if women can step into the place, because they're going to be there for their man in every aspect. And if there's a woman who is totally aligned, she's totally open to him, like a beautiful flower, and she wants to be with him. I've joked around with certain partners that I've had and said, I really need a harem. I need 3 men because one just doesn't do it, I'll rotate you guys around. And I don't think that it was really appreciated every time I said it, and I see that even more so right now because, what am I, not really trying to be a hypocrite here, but, but I will say, I'm here open for you all the time, ready to give and love, and I love that you love me, but I also would like to have the physical sexual love all the time. And I've had guys say that, I'm really tired, or, I want to be with you. But it's truly, it's amazing because when they have in other cultures, or used to in the past, they'd have these harem families. What about the woman? What if, and maybe only the rulers got to have them, the female queens or pharaohs, and that's not right, because we should all be so perfectly aligned that both the man and the male and female are working together for that beauty. Yeah,
what you're making me think about right now is how we've gotten so far away from our true natures, both men and women. I think that the feminist movement was absolutely fabulous on a lot of levels for us to be respected in new ways. However, I do feel like it created a competitive nature with women that is not our true nature. Our true nature is collaborative. Right. We don't want to compete with men.
Right, exactly.
That's a male characteristic.
And we don't want to compete with women either. We want to embrace our sisterhood and to love each other, because otherwise we're not raising that vibrational energy of love. We're diminishing it.